Patriots fans, less than a week until training camp. My God, it's almost football time. Like, you know what? I underestimate this part, this time of the year every year, where we've been fiending for months, and then we come into training camp week like just rabid. That's how I feel right now. I am ready for this. Khari Thompson, Taylor Kyles, Patriots press pass, soon to be Patriots daily. Okay, we're gonna get those graphics popped up next week. But yo, my man Taylor, how are you doing? Are you ready for this? Your first?
I'm ready for this, man. I've been waiting for this, like hyped up for this for weeks already, man. I'm excited for it to finally be here. It was really fun, obviously, OTs and mini camps, seeing these guys in person for the first time. But now, probably the first couple of days are going to be pretty relaxed, but then we're going to see pads, 100% speed, and we're really going to get to see what the competition's like on the field. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think that's going to be the interesting thing, right? When you're looking at training camps, training camp practices, and you're thinking about what stats to use, you got to get used to what segments are full speed, which ones are more competitive, which ones aren't. And people are going to be throwing crazy stats. For all of y'all watching this and listening, people are going to be throwing crazy stats at you. Mac Jones did this, Bailey Zappi did this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you got to take those things with a grain of salt. I trust my man, Taylor Kyles, to give you that context. And as always, twice a week, at least, check in with this podcast right here so that we can give you the goods. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let's get to some news. Mr. Kyles, what are we talking about today?
All right. So first up, I'll go player weight changes. I think that's something that dropped yesterday. So let's see. I'm going to bring it up here on my feed real quick. All right. So take it with a grain of salt because a lot of these numbers aren't really accurate. Like I think Vince Wilfork was listed like 325 pounds for most of his career. And we all know that was a damn lie. So take all this with a grain of salt, but it's pretty interesting to see, at least listed weights where these guys started, where they ended. So first, Kendrick Bourne, 190 to 205. What are your thoughts there real quick? Go one quick each.
Beefed up. I mean, and this was, I think the jokes were about like Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne last year that he got over 200 pounds and Kendrick Bourne was like, I don't know about all that. Well, it looks like he is this year. He looks like he wants to perhaps take up a little bit of that slot role, take some hits, take some punishment, show what he can do after the catch and breaking tackles in an expanded role. What do we hope he has?
Fingers crossed. He's looking like an X out there, to be very honest. It was obvious he bulked up. Malik Cunningham, 188 to 198. He gained 10 pounds. What do you think about that for the new receiver / quarterback?
I mean, I think that it makes sense for whether he was playing receiver or quarterback, honestly. Mm-hmm. I think the bigger thing for him is going to be the agility drills, catching the ball. How does he absorb the playbook? But, I mean, it looks like – look, getting close to 200 pounds from where he was at, looked like he's forming an NFL body pretty quickly.
Yep. All right, Demario Douglas, 170 to 192. Now, to be fair, I think he's been that way for a minute. I think that I'm pretty sure that around bowl time, he gained a lot of weight and added muscle, kind of like Zay Flowers. So, yeah, what do you think about that for the slot receiver?
Love it. I love it for him because, look, I think that especially when it comes to the rookie wide receivers, it takes a little while to develop an NFL body. Like, for example, Tyquan Thornton looked like a stick figure last year. He's probably still going to look like something of a stick figure this year. But I feel like that's huge to gain that much muscle, to gain that much mass. As long as he doesn't lose that quickness and speed, that is his calling card, because that ultimately is going to be why he would make the roster more so than any weight he puts on.
Yes, sir. All right, next up, we got Devon Godshaw. The primary nose tackle went from 311 to 330. Now, to be fair, I think 311 was being a little, slighting him a little bit. He's not 311. At no point was he 311, I don't think.
No.
But maybe he's brought like 320. So 330 for a nose tackle, you'd like to see it. What do you think?
Yes. I mean, I think that is a completely reasonable playing weight and probably closer to what he actually was last year and what he's been when the pads actually come on. I think that's fine. As long as we don't see any loss of, I think, explosiveness and see him moving sluggishly. I'll say this when it comes to Godshaw. There were times when I thought he was getting pushed around a little bit last year, or like times where he will get pushed around. You get up to 330 pounds, it's going to be harder to do that, ain't it?
Yes, sir. All right, now we're going to try to go speed round on this because there's a lot of names on this list, to be very honest. All right, Hunter Henry, 250 to 258. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, Look, with him, I think that as long as he is able to run smoothly, because he's not the fleetest of foot, he never has been, and maybe that's just a matter of, look, let's put on a little bit more muscle, make me a little bit more durable. I think he's generally been pretty durable with the Patriots compared to obviously missed seasons when he was with the Chargers due to ACL. But I think that with that is just maybe try to get into a bit of a tougher body to take those hits and stay available.
Yes, sir. All right. Now, quick hitting thoughts. Jack Jones, 175, 180, gained 5 pounds.
Probably not that big of a difference to me, I don't think. But my thing is just, is this brother going to be on the field? That's what I want to know.
That is a bigger question. Mac Jones, 214 to 220, rising fit king.
Yes, getting buff out here. I think he's another one where, look at last year, he took a lot of hits. And I think some of that was, that was the offensive line, not necessarily playing up to standard all the time. I think the key with him, it's not so much about muscle and, oh yeah, he's getting buffed up so he can throw the ball 70 yards. I think that if last year showed us anything, Mac Jones has enough physical ability to play this game. He's got enough physical ability to throw the ball down the field. Now he's just got to stay on the field and make sure that he's doing the little things right. So to me, it's a durability thing with him, just being able to take the punishment.
Yep. All right. So now I'll just do a few more. Marte Mapu went from 216 to 230 somehow.
Now that's going to be interesting because that feels like a linebacker to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels a lot more like a linebacker kind of thing, but we'll see because he's a pretty fast dude. But again, that's a lot of weight to be carrying. All right, what's another interesting one? We got Rodney Randall, who's someone who's under the radar, slot guy at the cornerback position, but he went from 170 to somehow gained 25 pounds, is now 205. What are your thoughts there?
Hey, just staying versatile, right? It's like because I think here's the thing: the more that you can do on this team, the more opportunity you have to make a roster. I don't know that necessarily he's going to make a roster, but if he can beef up to the point where maybe he can flit inside, outside, maybe he can play a little bit of safety. That's the key. What can you do for this team? Miles Bryant was a guy like that, where he had to put a little bit of mass on and show that he could play a number of different spots. So that's kind of how I see that. Make yourself as almost positionless as possible, as versatile as possible, so that you're not just a slot guy, because then that makes your chances of making the team and sticking on the practice squad or whatever much more difficult.
Yes, sir. All right. And last one, real quick, Pierre Strong, 205 to 212, looking to become a change of pace receiving back for the Pats. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that his role is probably not going to change based on that so much, because his thing is it's about the speed. It's about being able to create explosive plays, turn a crack into a canyon. And as long as he could do that, I think that, him putting on a little bit of extra weight isn't necessarily going to change that. But you think about last year when he came into camp, on like the pup list, right? Or like he wasn't able to perform right away. And I think clearly he's putting in the work to show that he wants to be ready to go this entire time. No setbacks, no restrictions. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. All right, moving on. We got some Hopkins news. Unfortunately, it's not what Patriots fans wanted to hear. Hopkins is officially a Tennessee Titan. I think he tweeted some kind of edit today. So that's official. Yep. Do you think that he's someone the Patriots should have paid up for?
No. I think that, and this might upset some people, perhaps. I think that when you look at the terms of the contract, 2 years, $26 million, I think that is something they could have done. The question is, would the structure have worked? And I don't know the cap hits yet. I don't think that information has come out, but I feel they didn't have an overwhelming wealth of cap space. So they would have had to make it work so that they could have had some flexibility. If you can't do that, then I can understand why you wouldn't do that. The Titans were more desperate because they are desperate for any kind of relevance. They're poised to potentially not be very good. Now with Hopkins, who knows if that changes? Maybe there's a spark to that offense now. But I think that most likely the Patriots looked at the situation and said, you know what, it would be great to have him, but we don't need to be desperate for him. I tended to agree. I've been on this train for a while that DeAndre Hopkins isn't necessarily going to be somebody that I think the Patriots should sell out for, and that not getting him is going to be the end of the world. He's 31. You hope that he's still going to produce like a number one receiver, but you don't know that for sure. You play it a little bit on the safer side. Don't overinvest. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought that they could use Hopkins in terms of consistency, someone who's proven. And although he's had his injury issues as well, he's someone that you would project would be pretty healthy coming into camp. And obviously, we didn't see Juju. We didn't see Tyquan. It was just Parker and Bourne out there for the most part. It was so dire that Ty Montgomery was their top slot receiver. So I thought that would have been the excuse to sign him. But at the same time, I know a lot of people were thinking he's going to come in and be an X who's winning outside, threatening defenses on the perimeter, attracting coverage. That's not who he is. That's not even who he was last season. Obviously, his quarterback situation was terrible, but you still look at the body of work and what he did. And his most difficult catches were on back shoulder fades, and then he was making people miss sometimes on crossing routes. You know who else does that? A guy who's on your roster and isn't making all that much money relative to his position, Juju Smith-Schuster. He's someone that people really think of as a pure slot guy, but he's got the size and the ball skills that he can win on those same back shoulder fades. Few people are as good at the catch point as Hopkins, and I've said that. And that's really his calling card right now, but he doesn't have the juice that he used to have. I don't think Juju is there either, but I think they're comparable, and Juju gives you more after the catch. And another big name free agent who is still on the market. We'll see if he's actually someone the Patriots will pursue, although they are in the running apparently with division rival Jets and Dolphins, Dalvin Cook. Now, apparently he wants $8 million. More realistic, according to Jet sources, that he's probably going to get closer to like $6 million, and that's about it. Now, only Judon and Hunter Henry would be making more money on the Patriots if Dalvin Cook were to sign to a $6 million deal. So do you think the Patriots should pay up for somebody with his explosiveness, albeit at a position that you don't generally pay up for? Or do you think, pass, there's other guys on the market?
Pass, there's other guys on the market. And, this is from a guy who laments the fact that these top running backs are not getting the money that they deserve. I think Saquon should get paid because he's that level of player. And position be damned. He's one of the best players in the league not just at his position, but just in the league period. He's the best player on that team for sure. But Dalvin Cook, good player, obviously went over 1,000 yards last year, had a good statistical season. But do you need him on this roster? No, you really don't. I would rather, and this is somebody that I'm sure we're going to talk about, I would rather sign Leonard Fournette than Dalvin Cook because of the financials, because I think that he fits just as well and is a little bit more of that almost LeGarrette Blount type of big-bodied back that you could lean on and give Ramondre Stevenson some spelling, as opposed to Dalvin Cook, who's going to come in and basically be like, hey, man, so you got to pay me, and I don't know, I kind of want to be a number one back. Here's the other thing. It always takes two to tango. So it's not just about do the Patriots want to sign him, and this goes for D-Hop as well. Do those players want to sign here? So I think that I would rather stick with Ramondre Stevenson, a good veteran back behind him, and then see what some of these younger backs can do downstream. Then we're going to go ahead and sign Dalvin Cook, which I think that would be a far worse investment than signing DeAndre Hopkins. If you're going to spend the money on Dalvin Cook, you should have spent it on DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't agree with that. I think Cook is worth, relatively a lot of money for his position, whereas I do not think DeAndre Hopkins is at this point in his career. Dalvin Cook is coming off 4 consecutive Pro Bowls. Can't really argue with that kind of consistency. He's missed 3 games most each of the past 4 years, but clearly if you're doing enough to be making the Pro Bowl, racking up 1,400 yards, I think that's a big playability that they really could use on the offense, period. Now, while I did say they should pursue him, and obviously they are pursuing him because they're one of the teams that's reportedly in the mix, I don't think that, like you said, he's someone they need to pay that much for. Now, if the market is so bad that he's got to come significantly down on his price, and it's something where, okay, maybe throw in a little extra change, we'll see how the numbers pan out. But I wish that they could afford him. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think that getting a veteran back is more prudent considering you already have Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris. Patriots are famous for having their second-year backs have great seasons. You got 2 talented guys who flashed last year. So I think it probably makes more sense to get a veteran guy, which leads us into the mailbag section where we're going to get a little deeper into those veteran options. So C Merc 5 asks, I hope I didn't completely botch that. What do you think of the Fournette visit? Is there a chance they add to the running back position or wait to see if anyone gets cut first? Khari, you want to take that one away?
I will take that one. I think the Leonard Fournette visit is significant They brought him in last year for a visit when he was a free agent, and I thought the interest was there as well. Though again, it was more complicated because they had a bunch of running backs on the roster. You had Ramondre, you had Damian Harris still here, obviously played out the last year of his contract. You had those youngins, and at that point, you still had James White on the roster. You weren't sure necessarily what the story was going to be with him, if he was going to come back and play, but he was there. So it made sense to not sign him then. I feel like it makes sense to potentially sign him now. He earned, I think, about $6 million in cash last year, and then he was cut. I feel like there's a good chance you're going to be able to have him for less. He signed lesser deals with the Bucks in the years before that, kind of on like shorter term deals, shorter term money. I think you could potentially have him for around $3-4 million. And if you can have that, I would much rather do that than Dalvin Cook. I think the Patriots definitely are looking at the running back position. I mean, that's why they had James Robinson on the roster. He probably still would be here if it wasn't for injury. It just sounds like he wasn't quite ready to play physically. So I think they know they need to have another running back aside from Ramondre Stevenson on this roster. I think that Leonard Fournette is probably the top option on that list.
Yeah, so I agree, Fournette. I think that he's someone who can fit in that Ramondre mold where like he's not running slants. He's not really running – Ramondre can run downfield, but I think Fournette's more like purely underneath. But what he can do in space, he can still make his own yards. He's great when it comes to contact and trying to bully him through guys, especially defensive backs, which is why he's so good on swings, screens, and things like that. So, yeah, Fournette would be my choice, especially as a veteran guy who probably going to take the minimum deal. You can cut him if the two young guys emerge, see what happens there if you really feel confident in what you have, although depth in the running back position is obviously key. Playing devil's advocate, because they also had Darrell Henderson come in for a visit. Now, he's someone who, like, kind of lesser known, especially with the Rams kind of falling off last season, but he's more of a cutback style runner where the Rams obviously use a lot of zone kind of concepts where you're trying to get the defense flowing one way and then cut back the other. He was really good in that kind of scheme. O'Brien's using more horizontal runs effectively, unlike last season where they tried and they couldn't actually do it. So that's where his kind of meat and potatoes is, but he has enough power to get through guys downhill on duo and counter and things like that. He's got good power in the red zone, so he can be a goal line back for you. And he's someone who's more like a Dalvin Cook, where you can split him out, and he's actually a receiver. Like he had a lot of downfield targets with the Rams actually on like wheels as a receiver, kind of going really deep downfield, tracking the ball well, making tough catches that you wouldn't usually see from a runner. So, playing devil's advocate, if they had to sign somebody, I would lean Fournette. But if Henderson is the choice, there is some talent there that I think they could maximize.
So I was that you actually stole the question from me. So I'm gonna hit you with another question. Okay. Adhesive Slipper on Twitter asks, do you think they'll add any more receivers over the summer, or are they settled on making it work with the current wide receiver room? What you think?
It's a good question. I think they're probably going to stick with what they have. Like we saw in minicamp and OTAs, even though two of their top guys weren't around, they got to the league, but they weren't trying that hard to really add bodies to the position in terms of competitive talent. If somebody shakes free like Denzel Mims, I would have been excited if he was maybe an option. I saw a report that said that they were in on him if he was actually released. So if somebody shakes free from another team that can actually be competitive, I think they'll be all for it. But this is a time where I don't really think outside of injury they're trying to add more competition. I think their group is what it is right now. And I think if those guys are healthy, it's a really good, diverse group that gives you a lot of flexibility on offense, different things for defenses to think about. So, yeah, I think right now they're settled unless something happens, and then you might see them go after kind of a young, or veteran or somebody who's really not going to be too much of a threat.
I just want to say I love we got Mike Larry over here, Ty Montgomery looking like, what about me? Yeah, what about Ty Montgomery? Because there's a guy that's a guy that I thought was looking pretty good last year. Now, I still think that somebody like a Leonard Fournette or a Dalvin Cook is an upgrade over Ty Montgomery, but we should not forget that Ty Montgomery is on the roster because, again, that is a veteran back that could be your third down back for this team.
I think he's similar to Juju, where they're two veterans. You know exactly what you're getting from them. They're not crazy explosive, and you have guys on the roster who have bigger upside, but they're unproven. So I see them in the same mold where if the younger guys come through, like if we see Tyquan Thornton and Kendrick Bourne, he's not a young guy, but you know what I mean. If Kendrick Bourne is someone who's consistently productive and you got Tyquan Thornton demanding snaps on the field, then I think you see Juju maybe take more of a backseat because he doesn't have the same explosiveness as those guys. Similar thing with Ty Montgomery, where I think if Pierre Strong emerges, you're not really going to hear a lot from him.
Dig it. All right, let me ask you another question, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the closest comps in the NFL to Josh Uche, Kyle Duggar, and Michael Onwenu via our guy, Pat's Cap?
Yeah, we love Pat's Cap. That was a really good question. That was one of the tougher ones I really had to think about. And honestly, I'm not kidding you. I had some ideas, and then I looked up some player comps from the draft. I'm like, let me just make sure I don't sound crazy, and I'm not just pulling these out of thin air.
Let's get wild. Let's get fun.
So Josh Uche, in my head, I went Hassan Reddick. Because he's one of those guys who's a terrifying pass rusher, but you're not scared of him at all as a run defender. I looked it up on Bleacher Report. That was his pro comp. It was him and Uchenna Nwosu. So, yeah, I'd go that way. I'd go with Uche.
Exactly.
Yep, same page. Kyle Duggar, I said Derwin James. I think they're different. I think they're different types of athletes. I think that Duggar's a little bigger, and I think Derwin's maybe a little more lean, but I think he's got more top end speed. He's a little more bursty. But I mean, those are both guys you can put literally anywhere, secondary or at the second level, and they can be really good players for you. So that felt like the most obvious one for me.
We're two out of two. I kind of ran out on the guard one. So what about Onwenu?
Onwenu. So I was looking at the highest paid guards to see who's most like Onwenu. Obviously thinking most people would know who that was. And I came to Laken Tomlinson because he's a massive, massive guard who also had a lot of success with San Francisco in their zone scheme. So he's a big guy who's got a lot of athleticism. We saw that for Mike Onwenu, obviously. He's very solid, not even solid. He's outstanding in pass protection. They rarely give him any help. And he's someone who has the athleticism to play right tackle. And lo and behold, who did Bleacher Report compare him to? Laken Tomlinson. So, I mean, I feel like kind of a fraud because I was like, damn, I'm just so unoriginal, I guess. But at least we're not just going, oh, I see Shaq Barrett for Uche. I think Shaq Barrett was a significantly better edge defender in terms of the run. They could put Shaq Barrett on the field all the time and he would be at least solid as a run defender. And Uche, you really don't want him in that position. Yeah. But in terms of a pass rusher, I can see it.
Yeah. That's still wild, though. That I was literally about to be like, man, am I about to be tripping? Because I was totally Hassan Reddick was going to be my choice, and so was Derwin James. It's like they're kind of discount versions of those players.
Exactly, and that's crazy. We'll see what the discount looks like next season. We'll see about that discount.
We'll see about that discount. Blank check for Kyle Duggar, ain't it?
Yes, sir. And then also Alex Highsmith. I'll see if I can pull up his contract, but he's a pretty good comparison because I think he has more every down upside. I'm not positive. My keyboard's not working. Never mind.
Okay, but you know what? Well, how about this? How about this? Because this is a question at TMurph207. How will Alex Highsmith's new contract affect Josh Uche's future? Can Uche become a consistent 3-down linebacker?
Yeah, I got to say, I don't think Uche is ever going to be a 3-down linebacker. I thought his path to that would be as a second-level defender on early downs and then as a pass rusher. That hasn't come to fruition. And I do think that Highsmith's contract is basically what you're going to expect because I don't think anybody's silly enough to pay Uche like he's going to be on the field every down because teams are still trying to save money even if they do need an elite pass rusher. But I think that's going to be interesting. We'll see just based on that market. Obviously, the Patriots and the Steelers are a similar system. I think Uche is a much, much better pass rusher, though, to be fair. So I think Highsmith is a building block. And if his agent's but my guy's a much better edge rusher, I think you can have that conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I'm seeing in the chat, and it just brings it up to me. Genuine. Let's call it
genuine. My man.
Genuine. Okay, said pay the man Kyle Duggar. I've also seen a couple of people say that Derwin James more consistent coverage ability. Yes, absolutely. This is true. One thing that stood out from your film cut-ups of Kyle Duggar is that I remember watching him in his rookie year and in his second year. At various points thinking this brother's a little bit lost in coverage, and then seeing him start to I think play better chasing the football down the field and doing a little bit better in his man coverage assignments. And the man is deadly when the ball is in front of him. We all know that. I mean, whether it's coming down and laying the wood on somebody or whether it's coming in and swiping something. Just if the ball is in front of Kyle Duggar and his eyes are on the quarterback, just don't throw the ball over there. He's going to get it. He's going to get it or he's going to hurt the guy.
They'll figure it out sooner or later.
Yeah,
Teams are gonna.
Yeah, but I think that he's starting to hone those weaknesses that I think he had early in his career. I think it's going to be. I think that he is going to command a lot of money, like among the.
He's going to, and he's not going to. And Murph, you're right. I said on Twitter too. He's not waiting. He's not signing an extension. He's going to test the market. Patriots are going to let him test the market, and he's going to see what he gets. All right, this is the last one we're going to do for the mailbag. From Trey Fry Luke. That's a cool name. Ooh. I really like this question. In order for the Patriots to outperform their current expectations, which position group or groups will have to step up? Khari, what do you say?
Easy. Wide receiver is like number one on the list.
Yeah.
Because what are we even talking about? Oh, yeah, they got to sign DeAndre Hopkins because they need a true number one. Or, yeah, they got a little bit better from last year, but is better really good enough? I think this is the part where that position group, and I am looking squarely at Tyquan Thornton and Juju Smith-Schuster. They've got to be those guys that suddenly defenses are like, damn, we got to pay attention to these dudes now, wherever they go, because they are tearing us up, over the middle of the field. I think that is going to be that's going to be those two guys in particular are going to be the ones that I think if the Patriots make the playoffs and their offense is performing well, and you're talking highly about Mac Jones, I think those are going to be the two reasons why, big time. I think on the other side of the ball, I think it's got to be the defensive line, in particular up front, because I think that for a team that prides itself on stopping the run, they haven't stopped the run as well as I think they should have. And their linebackers, I think, they outperformed expectations last year. And I think that obviously when you had Judon and Uche playing the way that they did, I think the cornerbacks outplayed expectations. The safeties are really good, but I feel like that defensive line, get us some interior pressure and get an interior pass rush and make it more difficult for teams to run, make them one-dimensional. I feel like if there was one spot on the team that I just felt like they need more from them, it was the defensive interior last year. If they step up this year and you start to see more from them, and maybe that looks like Christian Barmore breaking out in his third year. Maybe that looks like Keon White kicking inside every once in a while and providing some juice on the inside as a pass rusher. That's what it's got to be. But I feel like, to me, that's the position group that I feel like basically everybody else seemed to outplay expectations last year at various points, except that spot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with old school answer, offensive line. Obviously, the interior you feel pretty good about as long as the one who gets back healthy. But then when it comes to the tackles, like Trent Brown has to be Trent Brown. And then whoever ends up being the right tackle, somebody needs to step up in that position group and at least give them starter. Even if it's a low-quality starter, tackle is a tough position. So somebody who could give them starting caliber play. Defensively, I'll say linebackers, because I think this team, the secondary is fine. I think the defensive line is very good. I think that they, deserve a lot more credit for what they do, especially the rotational guys who are just thought of as run defenders. They allow them to do a lot more in the secondary than they get credit for. But the linebackers, I think if they can step up, that's where, the great defenses have good linebackers. If Jelani Tavai can take a step, I think he's somebody who was good in all phases of the game last year as an early down linebacker. I think if he steps up, early down defense gets even better. And then if Marte Mapu can be that sub-package linebacker, if Mac Wilson can get his discipline and his play recognition up, I think you got a really good stable of rotational guys who can actually contribute for you.
Absolutely. I think Marte Mapu is absolutely the guy that I feel like it's wild to be saying this about a rookie, but if he can come in and actually play on that level where you got to have him on the field, I mean, that is going to be so fun.
Yeah, and I'll do this last one because I am about to go see both. Is Belichick seeing Barbie or Oppenheimer? 20 seconds, go.
I feel like it's easy. He's going to be an Oppenheimer guy.
Oppenheimer. I think Belichick, man, he literally lives in a dark cave. We all know this. It's his fable. So you know what? I think he's going to see Barbie. I think Linda's going to drag him to Barbie. I don't even think he has a choice. She's like, you know what? No, I want to see a smile. Give me a smile. And then it's going to be Barbie because she's going to light up all our hearts.
I love the shoulder turns. And you know what? Belichick has a way of zigging when everybody else is zags. But I also want to ask one last question real quick. What would be Bill Belichick's go-to karaoke song? Because I already know what my answer is.
I would say Living on a Prayer because he is praying that Bill O'Brien helps him keep his job. And Bon Jovi, obviously.
How about Wanted, Dead or Alive, also by Bon Jovi? Because you know what? Everybody comes for this man no matter what he does.
Look at that. Couple of freaking poets over here.
Yes, sir. Well, I know you got to get to your movie. So let's say good evening. Have a great time checking out your film. And you know what? We are going to be checking out a different kind of film next week for real. Taylor is going to be on the ground down there at Gillette Stadium, taking you through training camp, which begins next Wednesday, July 26th. Get your tickets if you haven't already, and get your Twitter notifications fired up. Follow Mr. Kyles at TKyles39. Follow me at KD Thompson5 as I retweet everything that Taylor says, and obviously join us for our next show.
Bring that Kenner